Hello there, I'm Lady Loy, and I am writing a book called Everything You Wanted to Know About Blackness But Was Afraid to Ask. And today's subject, one of the chapters in the book, is called Black People Face a Glass System, Not a Glass Ceiling. Living in a glass system can sometimes feel like the walls are closing in from every direction, like there's no clear enemy, no single door slams shut, just a narrowing of opportunities. A sense options are getting smaller while everyone else insists there are equal opportunities for everyone. Living inside a glass system doesn't announce itself with force. It applies pressure quietly, steadily until vigilance becomes normal and freedom feels unfamiliar. A glass system is different from a glass ceiling. A glass ceiling suggests height, ambition, the idea that you've travelled far enough to bump your head, but that simply isn't the lived reality for many black people, because this isn't about looking up, it's about looking around and realizing that air itself feels restricted, that movement comes with calculations, that every space has conditions, and that even rest must be justified. We've been told there's a glass ceiling as if the problem only starts at the top, as if we're all standing on the same floor looking up at the same limit. But for a lot of black people, the truth is quieter and heavier than that. Because it isn't a ceiling we hit, it's a system we live inside, a glass system that surrounds us long before we ever get close to anything resembling success, transparent enough to see opportunity, solid enough to stop us reaching it. And the danger of glass is that it doesn't look like a wall. So when you walk into it, people don't hear the impact. They just see you flinch and wonder why you didn't push harder. From early on, you learn how to make yourself smaller without disappearing, how to soften your tone without losing authority, how to explain yourself before anyone else asks. And this constant adjustment becomes so routine that you forget what unguarded breathing feels like. From childhood, you begin to learn this language of invisible resistance. In classrooms where expectations are lowered without a word being spoken. In playgrounds where confidence is mistaken for aggression. In offices where your name arrives before you do and already has a story attached to it. In hospital where pain isn't believed the same way. In neighbourhoods where safety feels conditional. And over time, these aren't isolated moments. They stack up, they connect, they form corridors and checkpoints that shape how far you can move without ever announcing themselves. So what the glass system does best is teach you to doubt your own senses, to ask yourself again and again, was that racism or am I imagining it? Was that bias or am I just not good enough? And when you live inside that question long enough, it starts to erode you from the inside because you don't grow up dreaming freely. And you grow up calculating, measuring your words, adjusting your tone, editing your ambition, learning how to be exceptional, just to be treated as acceptable. And people call that resilience. But resilience demanded every day isn't strength. It's tax on the soul. Most black people aren't blocked at the top. They're slowed at the beginning, redirected in the middle, exhausted along the way. So by the time anyone talks about a ceiling, many are already carrying years of invisible bruises, already tired of proving they belong in rooms they were invited into, but never fully welcomed. The system relies on that tiredness because exhausted people don't revolt, they self-correct. They internalise blame, they work harder inside structures designed not to move. And we're told to fix our mindset, fix our families, fix our culture, as if the same obstacles appearing generation after generation is a coincidence and not a design. As if neutral policies can't produce unequal outcomes. As if fairness automatically emerges without intention. A glass system doesn't need villains, it just needs maintenance, rules that sound reasonable. Measures that reward familiarity over merit, silence that protects itself by calling everything else noise. So what do we do when we stop pretending it's just a ceiling waiting to be shattered? Maybe one thing we can do is tell the truth earlier and louder, not just to adults but to our children, so they stop mistaking systemic resistance for personal inadequacy. Maybe we rest without apology, refusing the constant performance of worth for systems that need our depletion, that feed on our depletion. Maybe we stop offering endless explanations to institutions that already understand the problem and simply benefit from it, and redirect that energy inwards and sideways into building spaces where black humanity isn't negotiated, where our value doesn't need a footnote. But we also have to say the obvious thing we keep avoiding because it makes people uncomfortable. The system itself needs to change, not cosmetically, not symbolically, but structurally. The rules and the incentives, the gatekeeping, the quiet decisions that determine who advances smoothly and who meets resistance at every turn. Because until that happens, calling it a glass ceiling will always be too small, too polite, too forgiving. And yet even inside this glass system, something remarkable happens. People find pockets of air, moments where the pressure eases, just enough to remind them that they are human and not machinery designed for endurance. It happens in laughter in kitchens and cars and hair salons, group chats and late night voice notes, in shared looks that say, I see you, you're not mad, you're not alone. That's important because systems survive by isolating people, by convincing each person that their experience is singular, personal, a failure of effort rather than a feature of design. And the moment connection enters even quietly, the walls lose some of their authority. So let's stop pretending the obstruction isn't there, and let's stop translating our pain into palatable language, because when we do, something softens inside. Not because the world has suddenly become fair, but because self-blame begins to fall away. You realise you were never weak for feeling suffocated. You were responding appropriately to compression. Can you imagine what it would mean to live not in constant reaction to the walls, but in intentional creation of space? Maybe it looks like rest taken seriously, not as a reward, but as a necessity. Maybe it looks like refusing to be exceptional on demand, letting average be enough some days. Maybe it looks like building parallel paths where worth isn't negotiated at every step, where children don't have to armour themselves before they learn who they are. This isn't about pretending the glass system doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let it define the full shape of your life. And yes, the system must change. It has to, the rules, the measures, the quiet decisions, the ration dignity. But while that work is slow and contested, people are still living inside the pressure right now. And survival cannot be the only vision offered. We deserve more than endurance, more than resilience, more than applause for surviving spaces that were never designed for our ease. We deserve room to stretch, to fail safely, to speak without rehearsing, to exist without explanation. This isn't about one barrier above us. It's about an architecture around us, and the moment you see the glass system for what it is, something loosens inside. You stop blaming yourself for the walls no one else can see. You stop measuring your worth by how well you survive containment, and you begin quietly and deliberately to imagine a future that isn't about breaking through at all, but about breathing freely. Because the goal was never to reach the ceiling, it was always to live whole. And I hope that resonates with some of you. That's all for now.